love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just level up. Don't be scared. I'm so gone, no I'm never turning back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so what? You're gonna be hurting bad, cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad, I stay strong. You will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you're gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math, when I hate I attack. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just level up. Don't be
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. I had to make that joke. I mean, come on. Come on. You knew I'm going to throw that in. Finally, the Zekenyo. I'm not sure I've seen you here before. Hello, welcome. Bobab. Hello, hello, guys. Hello, Stunky. You goddamn legend. Philip. Hello, hello. Andrew, Johnny, and Blackberry. Hello, hello, hello. Hello to everybody who's there in the background. I didn't say hello to. Bring on the good stuff, Greg. All right, let's talk about it. Actually, I mean, that's a sad reality that when you're somebody like myself, look, there are a couple of things to this. First of all, I gotta acknowledge that I'm probably gonna get my power supply tomorrow, considering how Murphy works. I think I've got my system as stable as it humanly possible. I've literally figured out what was the issue and kept on my system from being stable, which unfortunately was something just tremendously stupid, and I should have figured out that part of the issue. An incorrect video driver that was not just allowing itself to update, and the video card was basically just thermal throttling, and yeah, that's what I was getting, this horrible sort of non-smooth behavior from everything. And considering my luck and how things work, it probably means I'm gonna get my power supply tomorrow morning, right? If not tonight, somehow dropped off by I don't know, CIA or something. So now, jokes aside, if we, and I mean all seriousness, if we really look at the price action, we're gonna see something very simple. We've ended up establishing our future lows while retracing, unfortunately, pretty much all the way back to the median, which we warned about. By the way, if some of you want to sort of make fun and go watch my previous videos, I think that would be like 3 weeks ago, if you guys remember, I might still have it actually on the chart. No, I don't have it anymore on the chart. But we were saying, yeah, I do have it on the chart. That's that very same one, although not as good as I had it. Remember when we dropped also low, and I said it's probably going to correct back up, find the range, which is roughly around the 250, maybe slightly higher, closer to the edge of the range. And believe it or not, we actually ended up having exactly what I said. And look, if you look at this, this is exactly that sort of excessive movement that I predicted we might have, sort of, and then slipping downwards. So really, all in all, what we've done so far since, right, moved around in this upper channel, like kind of look at how things panned out. And so far, we're moving pretty much to the very same level as I said that will be retested at 250, right? Very stable sort of gradual increase. No, I wouldn't say that it doesn't make any sense that we will end up retesting that 260, which is the golden pocket. We spoke about this literally several weeks ago. I did say that I don't think it will happen. In my mind, I said it will probably, I don't know, because the crash was promised to come. Oh my God, Bob. Oh my God. No, no, what you said, Greg, it's recorded. Bob, if that's the attitude, again, first of all, I didn't promise anything. Second of all, if that, I hope that's just a bad joke. I hope you realize, first of all, the crash was not canceled. The crash was not canceled. I hope that's just a bad joke. I really do. Crash is not canceled. That was a really bad joke. It's just part of the correction. What is amusing is that we did end up giving back a little bit more of our SQQQ than expected. Worst case scenario was expected to be around 35. We slipped up to the very next sort of a channel, something we've retested before. You can see, surprise, surprise, again, we were prepared for these channels in advance. By the way, Bob, if this is not a joke, it just means you're not paying attention. Just saying. I really do hope that was some sort of a joke. Now, another thing, if it's not a joke, I have a lot to say, but then again, not gonna waste valuable, precious time on that. If it is, if it isn't, not for me to decide. It's up to you, Bob. Now, with SQQQ, we actually ended up having to give back a little bit more than expected. In my mind, we would have expected to, again, sort of not come back to these levels and retain the higher end levels if it's the 38, 35. We ended up slipping. It's some of you, of course, are tremendously disappointed. Some of you realize that it's just another opportunity to pick up at a low price. And guess what? Hitting these lows, and we're starting to pick back up. Of course, once already established our previous levels, we know kind of where we're going. We're going back to the level 45 first, 54.75, basically the previous levels we retested before. So get prepared. In case you want to know what the next level is, 69-ish, 70, call it a 70. Based on the rush. I sure as hell hope so. Half amusing joke, because I say that all the time. First of all, my endurance, my ability to withstand some of its processes are not same as other people. So you shouldn't be just blindly following me. That's kind of one of the things I say all the time. You should definitely be able to analyze. And one of the things I recommend, this is why I recommend highly to join the One-on-One Academy, where you actually learn how to analyze the market on your own, and you're not dependent on my analysis. For example, a good example would be back then when we were still testing 59, 58, or rather we were around 56 and then slipping back up. And then I said the following. I said the market is pointing that we will be able to correct back to around 59. While in my mind, based upon what I'm seeing, we're not going to be able to correct higher than around 5,800. Or maybe 57 range, kind of, we're going to be basically, you can see the, I mean, 57.18 is might as well considered to be 57. So 57, 50, ironically, by the way, that's not exactly a 58, that's a 57.98. So again, 5,800 and 5,700, while not actually establishing 59. So in this instance, exactly like so, the market can sometimes overshoot and actually establish what it is saying. Ironically, technical analysis sometimes beats even what the technical analyst sort of can identify and his own perception on things. And that's exactly what I said. You shouldn't be just following what I'm doing. Do your own thing. So please don't even joke about like that. Again, we're all adults here, and everybody's responsible for their own portfolios. Now, with that in mind, by the way, just to sort of reiterate, no, the crash has not been canceled. We're still going on the very same path we've been going on. The only disappointing thing that we had to give up temporarily while actually establishing very decent lows, give back of our S triple Qs, a little bit more than expected, but then again, it will be given back. A correct, proper approach to it would have been to, of course, exercise on the higher end, but no, we did not see this as a logical sort of step. In fact, we ended up being more so flat rather than actually starting the rally more so the same way we have here. But what most people don't realize, we've already established that first step that will be reestablished then again easily. Now, let's do our normal sort of thing, because again, I didn't come here to explain exactly that. Let's do our normal thing where we go over the momentum. I'm so happy. I'm so stoked that my computer is like normally working and everything is so smooth. So, and I was working. I'm sorry I'm late. I was literally late because of it. I finished, and 4 seconds in, after I realized I probably was successful, immediately started preparing for the live. So again, I'm so sorry for being a little bit late, but that was the reason. I was trying to fix it all, and as you can see, it's a lot smoother. Everything is transitioning faster. It was an incorrect video drive, and that's what we had. Now, 5 minutes is rather boring. It seems to be more bullish. So again, it's not unheard of. Will be a couple of things that we want to cover here. First of all, one of the things that sort of bothers me the most is that we have a big gap right above us. And by the way, if you look at the video 2 weeks ago, I was saying how I will be super stoked and happy if we'll end up closing these gaps and in the process eventually close to these gaps, right? But how likely is that to happen? Well, we'll go over this just for you to have some level of perception to where these gaps are. We're going to mark them. So we're going to have them somewhere around like so. Let's make them like so. And in fact, make them like so they will stand out. And like so-ish, kinda. Cool. That will do. That will do. We'll log them up so you can see them right here where we are. So this is the gap above us. How close are we? We are extremely close. In fact, in reality, we're roughly around, we were actually roughly around $10 away, $12. Right now, we're currently a little bit more, so it's around almost $30, $27. And it's problematic. Now, I'll tell you why. Because in reality, this is still bullish. But 5 minutes is not enough to carry us to this range, absolutely. Not with this bullish momentum. Unless we have confirmation of more bullish momentum on a higher time frame. Let's check out higher time frame. Problem. Suddenly, you don't have momentum. Well, we do because we are overbought still in reality. What appears to be the reality right now is that we can end up pushing all the way to that bottom area of the gap. 5,497. Yes, definitely possible given that we are still in bullish territory, although we're switching over, right? This convergence divergence play still doesn't mean anything. It's more than enough, this area, given we are in overbought territory. We can easily make it to, in fact, 55.11, right? If we really want to exaggerate, because it's not all that far. Again, roughly around $15, $14. I'm so sorry. My cough is not fully healed yet, but I'm there. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Everything is almost back to normal, including the market. You see, the market just realized I'm a little bit off my game, and so they used the opportunity, right? Now, when it comes to the 45 minutes, which of course very similar to the 1 hour, kind of in between, gives us a better hint where we're moving towards the 1 hour. What we can identify, at least on this time frame, we can start identifying, which is a little bit harder given the slippage and the behavior we're having here. The real area that is currently retaining us is this line, is this area, although we are above it, right? Basically that 5,420, 420. I'm very upset at Elon Musk for establishing that so severely into the industry. It's his fault in my mind. We are about to overturn. It's those who understand the importance of the third part of the cycle, basically, and the overall map. I would argue that, as crazy as it is, and this is actually very unfortunate, I'm about to say something that's going to upset a lot of people, especially those who own a whole bunch of S triple Qs. I would love to see the market actually close this gap. Now, why? We're going to close it anyways. It is unpleasant right now, I know, but if this process is going to be prolonged now and we're going to end up stretching this via moving into this sort of formation wedge just to do it later down the line, I prefer to get it over with as soon as possible, which will give us, in fact, the edge of the channel and a corrective movement. For me, all it will give me is another opportunity to pick up S triple Q on a very low and, again, sort of benefit of the actual rally when time comes, which I would argue is not far off. We will see in a second. So basically, for me, it just gives me another opportunity to establish another sort of layer right before we continue downwards. Most people, of course, get highly preoccupied with how it feels compared to yesterday. I would keep you guys preoccupied with how it feels overall, right? Simply, the channel does not change all that rapidly. And remember, when I said that was all too rapid, and I'm not going to be surprised if we're going to give a lot of it back. Far more than I've expected. My expectation was roughly to stay at around 5,200. Again, that's why I tell you guys, learn to do your own analysis and rely on your own decision making. Now, based upon the experience I have, based upon how the structure was, I forecasted that we're not going to break above 5,200-ish area. We ended up breaking above it. Very unfortunate to those who made it detrimental to their portfolio. Again, I warned that I maybe get some things wrong in the process. The market is extremely volatile and things will not always work as we want. But for me, it means, like I said, absolutely nothing. Other than, again, like I said, a better opportunity to buy more triple Qs. Now, let's look at the hourly. The hourly is actually very important because the hourly is actually signaling something that is not exactly that clear on the 45 minutes, and here it is. We are just a scratch away from overturning. All along, we were retaining a downwards directive, sort of preparing for that breakdown into the body of the channel. That's why we see this sort of preparation and movement forward into the body. We've seen these sort of movements before, it's just that this time we got it a little bit more extreme than the times before, and so we got a little bit overexcited. In reality, if we're looking at the hourly, how it's panning out, it's already at the stage of convergence. 82.10, 82.15, 80. You can see we are basically a millimeter. In fact, we are literally live having convergence as we're seeing it. So I would argue that get prepared, it appears to be for at least some form of temporary corrective movement. Whether it's going to be the one that will start bringing us even further lower or not, well, we'll see in a second. In my mind, what it promises for now, temporarily, is probably a movement roughly around towards the low 54s, basically the 54.20 and 54.04, where we've seen the price action retest multiple times. By the way, it's I don't know if it's a running gag on the 404 error thing or what, because I mean I've noticed 404 far too many times to actually set it aside. Now, so I would argue that there is something there, and even if temporarily so, just for the jokes of it, why not? I would argue that whether this or not this, we will have the diagonal, right? The median of the diagonal retested right before we continue to the downside. Again, 50 range, giving us back closing this gap. Within the following, probably I would argue 2 or 3 weeks. Yes, it might be quite slow. Once we establish it, once we accelerate, of course, we'll end up closing that gap. But for now, I would not rely on it. I would still aim towards 5,200. 5,200 basically is still our median. As unfortunate as it is, 52 is still our median. Closing in on the end of the month, it might now signal that we're not going to get 4,800 simply because of how much momentum is necessary for that sort of movement from 54. Does not mean it's not possible, but let's establish whether the market is signaling that that is the case or not. The one thing that for sure on the 4 hours, the market is signaling that it's running out of momentum, right? And we are conveniently at the edge of the channel. So since we are at the edge of the channel, come on, channel, come on. Come on, channel. Come on. Well, it will kick in at some point. You see, it still is not working perfectly, but it is what it is. Anywho, for the time being, what we're seeing is convergence on the 4 hours at the edge of the channel. And so the question sort of goes back to, can we actually successfully make it to into this gap and close the gap? Well, the reality seems to be that no. If we're converging already around here, I'm not going to be all that surprised if we'll have still some slippage, very similar to how we've seen this price action behave before, and eventually come down to the point where it runs out of momentum within the following days, probably closer towards the end of the month, and then ending up at 5,200. That is as the current 4-hourly trend. Well, it will be very, very, very awesome if I'll have my larger trend. I don't know why it's refusing to be added. No matter what I do, can I get it? Or is this like, oh, what's the deal? You see, boys and girls, this is not my fault. Things are not functioning as they should. All right. Now we'll have to switch over to the daily. It is what it is. Let's get our momentum indicator back. On the momentum indicator on the daily, we still have a little bit of upwards momentum, something we warned about. Again, as we said, we still can see some movements higher towards around 54, maybe 90, right? Easily, given how we are overbought already and green dominant, K dominant. Normally, I would say that this sort of formation will hint for a preparation for a convergence and a breakdown to the downside, whether it's going to happen several times before we do, or is it all over with? Worst case scenario, like I said, what it appears to be is we're going to waste and spend some time. I actually wanted to see the daily. This is something I really, really want to show, how the previous channel, how the larger channel, I'm not sure what's the deal. Okay, you know what? Let's see if I can make it work here. Let's see if I can make it work here. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay, so what I wanted to really show off, this is actually the picture I've posted in the community. And if you remember, I was actually showing off how we are basically around the median. What is important to notice is a very interesting factor. Normally, that would be a normal behavior to see around the edge of the channel where we start to converge and sort of break down and will establish, again, a lower high. But in reality, as this stands right now, given the range where we're at, it's very unlikely. Oh, yeah, no, Andrew, there are two channels. There are two channels. One of them is the slow one. You know what? I want to show you guys something. I actually don't do this normally. I really just, this is sort of too indicative of what I want to point out. But I think it will help me a lot to point out the transitioning process. Right now, I want you to, you'll see in a second, you'll see how it sort of works, and I want you to pay attention to the channels, the transition of the channels. Now, something akin to what will be happening around here is literally something that we're having right now on a far smaller scale right here, okay? I want you to pay close attention to what I'm about to show you right now, all of you. Let me just clean this up so it'll be just cleaner so you can see. I just want you to see the channels, how they change. Let me just remove that. I guess we're not going to need that and that. All right, cool. I want you to pay close attention, right? Again, to this area, and then consider this location based upon the behavior. And the sentiment is definitely bearish. Don't forget that. This behavior of the market pulling so much lower, and then, of course, as I said, reestablishing, that is actually a lot more normal than most people realize. Again, haven't been in the market for a long, for long enough to realize that these are very normal behaviors, or whether we do it on the upside, on the downside, they don't really matter. So yeah, let me show you. Again, pay close attention to the channel behavior, right, and how we're basically moving along. I want you to really pay close attention to the channels, not just to the price action, but rather how the channels get readjusted. Okay. Let me make sure we have both channels available. Why we don't have both channels available for us? Give me a second, boys and girls. Should be working soon. Maybe we'll kick in once I'll let it run. Let it rip. Okay. Let's just let it rip and see. Oh, yeah. I'm a moron. Both channels. They're so... I'm a moron. Yeah. All right. Check this out. Look carefully. Follow both channels. Okay. Notice one channel is the thick one, and one of them is the narrow one, right? So the narrow one is the fast one, the one that sort of adjusts quickly based upon the recent price action, and the thick one is the slow one. Now there, yeah, exactly. Now you can see them. Exactly. So I want you to carefully see about how they behave closer to the transitions. Actually, I was able to go even further to show you this from before, but it will be good enough, I believe. Check this out. You know what? Let me no, let me move it here, and I want to make it just a little slower, because I feel like it's moving far too fast for you boys and girls to follow up on. That should be fine. Let's go. No, what did I do? Okay, cool. Notice the channels readjusting, especially the larger relative to the smaller one. This is the actual price action as we had it, and as the channels were readjusting over time. Notice that they are still signaling the very same thing as they go through, and then we can identify that there is a significant enough change, okay? Notice how the larger channel is slowly following the quick channel, right? As if the quick channel is first establishing the locations that dictate where the larger channel goes. So I want you to pay close attention. Notice the thin one, the really thin shifted over, right? It shifts over back again, up and down, printing the price action. The less thinner one, the kind of medium size, right, still is pointing to the upside. As we're going to start creating that shift over, notice what happens to the thin one, and now notice what happens to the thick one that follows it. As we're printing the data, we're having more points. Notice it shifts over. Now, as you saw, over time, right here over that change, the thick one over time, when you have enough data points, follows the thinner one. Now, the thinner one follows the really thin one, the almost transparent one. In fact, let me show you, in case you missed it, let me show you again. Pardon me. Check this out. Let's do this again real quick. Just the end part. Notice how the channels are shifting over or dragging each other over. Notice they're currently all are pointing upside. The quick one is pointing extremely to the, of course, as if it's going to be rallying basically to the moon. This is a little bit less steep, and this one is basically almost flattening. Now notice the gradual change again. The quick one, because it shifts over back and forth while printing data points, that in essence formulate, as you can almost see, transition to that flatter plane, right? Oh, sorry, I did it too early, kind of like so. And now look. Notice what happens with the thin one as it starts to follow right behind. And transitions over with the thin one. The thin one still goes up and down because, again, that represents the very quick price action, the super duper I would say, super quick moving average, and so it dictates a completely almost irrational channel that shifts over up and down. But it's because what you are seeing is the creation of these internal channels, that some of them they shift over to the upside as we make them, but the overall channel, pardon me, as you saw, shifted over to the downside. So what we're seeing here, remember, it's a very similar idea to what we saw here, but on a far smaller scale, right? And the channel is actually retaining and maintaining itself, while the further one, because it's maintaining it and retaining itself, looking to the upside because it still does not have enough data points. Once we print enough data points, whether moving between these highs and lows, doesn't matter, to the downside, this channel will shift over. This channel indicates a prolonged movement. How prolonged? Well, to be simple here, this is the very same channel we've been in since around October 2022. As you can see, we've probably been in another channel prior to and shifted over. So we don't just move through these channels forever, but these channels themselves can last for multiple years, right? Last time we've shifted over into this narrower channel, this narrower band, which, by the way, we have a far wider band which moves around here, which we can see if we switch over to the weekly. Yeah, kind of similar, but still right now probably in that transitional point, right? And by the way, the very same thing can be visible here, but again, we're not yet fully transitioned, because as you can see, we have this flattened plane, right? Still this, while being completely out of bounds, has not yet transitioned because it does not, again, have enough data points to shift it over the same way we saw the channels do, whether it was here or at any other sort of junction point. And this about to shift over, as you can see, we in fact broke these averages, so these price points that dictated the moving average, or the linear regression average, really, for this period of time. So given the length of time that we spent here, the same way we've penetrated into this channel, now we are developing the very next channel that we'll be moving over into. W is still very bullish. Okay, then Bob, then go bullish. What do you want from me? I don't manage your portfolio, Bob. That's it. That's kind of it. The weekly, of course, if you consider us being an oversold territory bullish, then that's up to you. I would call that bearish very distinctively, and I will call that a downwards trend. But again, you call this whatever you want, and I would still call this a downwards trend, and I would call this a flattening trend. As I just showed you, Bob, a second ago, these things take time. Now, if you're impatient, that's your problem, you know. No offense, of course. Now, on the monthly, nothing has changed. On the monthly, it still looks horrible as it is and will continue to deteriorate. We're closing the month within 4 days at this stage. And so once this month is closed, there is a very high probability that we will decimate. We'll see another sort of movement that will decimate 6-7 more months in a singular movement, as you can imagine, probably establishing closer to 4,800 this time around. It's not going to be just a retest of 5,000. At this stage, we're probably going to be shifting over not just into here, but completely shifting over and probably no longer testing these highs. That will signify that movement, that transition over, which in my mind is not going to be all that surprising, those who understand how these things work. But Bob, why don't you take the academy, learn how technical analysis learns properly instead of just, blindly following Greg, and actually understand what I'm really saying, and it'll be quite beneficial for you. And for example, understand the reasoning of why I'm saying there's a difference between what we've been doing here and what we're about to do here, and why we're going to get probably locked in this vicinity. Although similarly to how I said with Tesla, we may easily see the market retest back to 5,200, given it is still our current median. I'm not going to be surprised if it's going to be our slippage area, potentially retesting that wedge, eventually then later down the line, of course, breaking. We're then looking towards the end of the year, the beginning of next year. But that may take time. And again, this is just an assessment. By the way, irony, Bob, if we look back literally into my videos months ago, I was saying the very same things months ago. That it's not going to be straightforward. It's going to be very gradual. Within the downwards process, there will be upwards internal trends. The very same way that if we look to the upside, right, you see we don't go straight up. We have internal downtrends, right? Kind of the adverse reaction, which is actually a corrective movement. That's very normal. In fact, that was expected here because that was part of the cycle that you're not familiar with. There is a cycle to the market, and there's a difference. Well, we shouldn't have expected. It's the same way if the race is 11 kilometers, you get to the 10th and you start complaining why the finish line is not there. It's simply not. It is on the 11th kilometer. So you have to make another one and you'll make it. The weird thing is, of course, we were dragged out significantly. And I did say that originally we're going to end up breaking it around 5,400 if you watch my videos really, really way back. And I mean, I would argue that comparing to the rest of the market right here, when I predicted the bottom cents off, and I was probably the only one bullish, rational human being other than Tom Lee, because that was saying the market should go up because it's too down. That total proper sense. You can watch my videos. They're still online. They're still actually on my channel. I was talking about this very channel right here. Before it actually happened in the community, you can ask Tom. And the same way, it was a very gradual, very tedious process. This may as well be similar, but on the back end. In fact, we ended up accelerating far quicker than I thought. So, Bob, I don't know what you're complaining. Right now, we still should have been testing 5,700. We are far ahead of ourselves. So, I mean, again, I hope everything that you're saying today is just a bad joke. Really. And I'm just giving you a straight up honest answer, whether it is a joke or not. I'm just treating this as a serious question. I hope you appreciate that. Now, and again, the 3 months didn't change, which, by the way, is just tremendously horrific, signaling that we're about to basically start again. We're just at the beginning of the actual painful movement. Boys and girls, we haven't done any of it. And those who try to compare it to the movement we had from 22 to 22 here around July, around January, that's not it. You shouldn't be looking for that sort of movement. You should be looking for a lot steeper and a lot more significant movements that we will see. It's similar to, if I may bring about and compare to something, it will be more similar to this. Those who understand, this was actually a very, very, very tame scenario. In comparison to the cyclical sort of way the market behaves. By the way, you notice now that the channel is suddenly a lot wider and goes exactly kind of to the ranges that I said. It's a lot wider now. You see? So what you need to realize that right now we're merely at the beginning of the movement to the center, which resides roughly around 4,200. We've mentioned this many, many, many times, but don't expect this process to be smooth. And again, I said this before. In fact, if you look carefully at the upwards trend, or as you saw it earlier in a more broken down sort of process, you will realize the market never does anything, even an uptrend, in a linear fashion. And if you identify really what happened here, you had a very significant high with a significant low. Okay, so that was a drop from 4,600 to 4,000, so roughly around $600. Quite a significant drop, I would argue, right? And this is just a corrective movement. What we're about to see and get is a lot worse, a lot worse. This is you're comparing a tiny little dinghy boat compared to an oil tanker. So what we're about to get here is a lot worse. You need to understand that what you got here was at the already process of rallying to the upside, while this is the very opposite on the transition to the downside. Okay? So now that it took us the better part of the hour, we really ran through everything, and I've got to re-explain triple Q's parts and everything and anything, and we missed out on a lot of time on talking about stocks, which is very unfortunate. For example, one of the things I want to highlight, by the way, for example, if we're looking at Palantir, I literally warned about this. Watch my videos, Bob. I don't know how long you've been with us, but I warned about this very price action, and I said, and you can actually see this is so unfortunate. I removed some of the drawings And I mean, maybe I should have kept them. That is actually somewhat unfortunate. Let's see if I maybe can get some of the drawings on the other layouts, because I was saying, but then again, I will also admit that I was saying that this is very unlikely in my mind based upon how the momentum is structured. I don't think it will actually happen that high, right? Does that mean the correction has been canceled? Not at all. It just means the market is somewhat irrational and can go higher. In fact, we spoke about this exact behavior. I said how the market, instead of just going sideways, can end up exceeding itself, going to previous highs just to establish this sort of head and shoulders formation, just to break down lower eventually, right? Like so. I mean, it still is online, Bob. You can literally go and watch it. And again, I hope this was a bad joke. You see, I don't want nor expect anybody to blindly follow me, because my endurance level and my pain threshold or my plan and target can be completely different to yours. And so right now you're in horrible, tremendous pain seeing S triple Q like that. For me, it's just an opportunity to load up and decrease my average. That's all it is. Again, Nvidia back to 100. I literally said that it probably will end up retesting. Why? Because these levels have been retested, and we've gone over them multiple times before. Let me see. I think I maybe can get some of the levels right here on Palantir. Let's see if I have it on this chart. Maybe I've drawn them here. I remember deleting a lot of stuff. Yeah, that was on that chart, and I've deleted it. Yep. Again, by the way, at least I've kept this to signal that, yeah, we can get back roughly to these levels. These are the levels we're seeing as our sort of major resistance, which, by the way, I will tell you secretly that we're not that far off. We're probably going to retrace back to that 95 within 2 or 3 or 4 days. No, why? Bob asked some good questions. I wanted to give him his answers. Now, I mean, as we were going through the various processes of looking at the various time frames, we're still gonna do that. Let's see if I have it on Tesla. Remember, I kept a lot of the stuff. Here it is. Oh my God, I actually kept it. You see, I actually kept it, and I said that it can actually get worse. You see, here in the beginning, I said it was worse. I said it can go as high as 300. Then I said we're going to start gradually decreasing, which I gave roughly around right below that 300, roughly around 280 with some slippage, right? Kind of where the channel moves through. And then eventually, I think, well, I haven't done anything. I haven't said what it will do, but I said it will generally be moving in the sort of very volatile price action, eventually establishing roughly around 200. And once confirming it and getting rejected by it lower, continuing to lower, below 200. It's 175.60, 165.63, 158.95. Remember all these numbers. Don't tell me I didn't tell you these numbers. Later you're going to see I'm put them down and they're fresh or whatever. I've had these numbers forever. It's the very same support and resistance levels we had forever and ago. The only thing that happened and why everybody's panicking is, guys, we got a little bit of high while the S triple Q just kind of corrected down. That's normal with the market. That is kind of part of the thing, which, again, as I said, was overall expected. That's it. I think we've covered the overall sort of expectation and all the time frames, market price action with regards to individual assets, which also I want to highlight how I said we are here at the moment. That was something I posted literally a day ago. We ended up moving this one tiny little millimeter. If that makes the whole difference for you, then maybe you should be just DCAing into the market and hoping for the best. That may be a better strategy. That's it, boys and girls. I think we're all done for today. You know what? No, let's get some questions before we finish today. Why not? Because we've gone over a lot of stuff. Let's see that I'm not missing out on anything. Yeah, let's go over some questions. If anyone wants to maybe see some, let's do a stock or two. Why not? We're not in a rush anywhere. I'm so excited the computer is working well again, relatively, and I can sort of do stuff. So, yeah. Let's look at some stocks. Why not? I'm waiting for stocks. boys and girls, a stock or two, whatever you want to see, analyze. If there will be no stocks offered, I will just finish the stream today. And plug. But plug is not interesting. Plug is very easy to analyze. We've kind of spoke about this, and there's not much to add, sadly. We're now residing at the very bottom. No, that's the wrong. Maybe I should just bring it up here. I think I'm pretty sure I have plug. That's the plug. It's just boring. We spoke about it relatively recently, and there's not much to say about it. I'll show you in a second. Look, this red line represents, well, now it's green, but as you can see, this line where we're at right now. Let me. No, that's the wrong thing. That should be, as long as it's not the symbol, right? I think that should be it. Perfect. Now let me. Okay, cool. Let's try so you can see it very well. Okay. You can see where this line goes through, right? This is where we're at actively right now. Palantir, I just sort of went through. Okay. Okay, I asked for this, so I can't complain. All right, stop it for now. All right, KTOS. Okay, good. KTOS. Cool. Let's focus on plug for the second, because, right, that's it. Done. Enough. We're gonna be sitting here forever. Let's go over plug. I want you to notice something very interesting. First of all, of course, as we're on the daily starting to pick back up, since we're still in bearish territory, we're not feeling the bullish love yet. We're just about to cross over, so give it a couple more sessions, okay, before we cross over into bullish territory. Remember, 50 is the threshold, okay? Now, what I want to highlight is, you see this low that we're at right now, that 0.80 area, which again, it wasn't really too expected. I'll just highlight that this is the very same previous support that we broke off of last time. You can see it perfectly right here. And if you think that's the only example I have, I'm sorry to disappoint. That level is very well accepted and known in plug for a very, very long time. If you look deeper, you'll find that we were very well aware of this level before. We tested it multiple times. This arguably is also one of these. And so what you're actually seeing is, as unpleasant as it is, relatively normal. Wait, how far have I gone? Yeah, I'm already at the rally point. Yeah, that's it. This is the last time you'll see this low. So we're aware of it. By the way, just to highlight again, that's the very same low before you head off back to around the 3s and so forth. Now, the difference between this area and the area we're at right now, first of all, already established all these highs and whatnot. But more so, let's highlight the actual momentum. How does the momentum look like? On the daily chart, we're slowly creeping up on becoming bullish again, right? Right here, as you can see, once we cross over the threshold of 50, which is literally within, I would, again, since we're on the daily, within several sessions, several candlesticks, so that probably means next week, somewhere around next week, we might already see that transition into the bullish territory, bringing us back to roughly around above 1, basically to 130, I would argue, relatively quickly. On the weekly, still slow. Now, here is something you should be very excited. We're still oversold, significantly so, but what you need to realize is that we've been oversold for a very prolonged period of time, and normally speaking, even on average, we are roughly spent the same amount of time we spent in oversold territory and are about to pick back up, which we're starting to see following the smaller time frames, right? We're going to be able to start seeing how we're becoming more and more bullish. Remember, this will retain bullish area, even if slipping here and there, still showing off bullish momentum. That's something we're about to see. Why? Because we're about to slip over into bullish territory right here on the daily, which will drag us out on the 4-hourly. Remember, that's a small time frame, not a larger time frame. Larger time frame is about to break up, right? We can see both of them have been dragged down at the zeros for quite some time. On the monthly, conveniently, we are actually now well, we're starting to see sort of that transition, that back of convergence around the 20 area. And the 3 months is the biggest highlight, the thing that we've been waiting for. We've been basically waiting for this rally forever and a bit. And the problem that a lot of people misunderstand, for some reason they think I'm planning for one of these. No, I'm not. All we need is one of these. So you be the judge. You be the judge. And currently it's not signaling on that time frame. It's a little bit of a problem simply based upon well, the 0-0s. It can't go any further than that. There are better tools to identify whether we're running out of bearish momentum. I would say the previous lows are a very, very good, strong signal for it. And definitely, as we said, the monthly curving around and coming into sort of this convergence point, our weekly being bearish for a very long time. In essence, we have all the sort of necessary partitions of the structure to say that's it, we're done, we've ran through the course of this, and we're ready to break up. The daily, in fact, is starting to pick up because the daily is quite significant. Not like the smaller time frames. This is where we start to see that the following sessions will start picking us back up to around 1 and upwards. See if there's decent resistant pullback. Okay. The robots are buying the market. Absolutely. I mean, robots are the best ones to identify. In fact, I would say the robots are the ones to create this sort of rally. But the problem is it's going to run out very soon. Bob, you see, again, if you look at watch the videos from a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that there is still bullish momentum, and depending how it will be squeezed. Yes, it's a lot more bearish than my expectation was, but I'm borderline can promise you that these gaps will be closed in a very recent time. Maybe we'll develop new ones as we go, which sucks, because then again we'll have to correct into them in order to close them. But the argument here is very simple. Very shortly we'll be slipping lower and lower and lower, and by doing so we'll be closing all these gaps. You may rewatch this video in a couple of weeks. I'm so sorry, give me a second. Okay. Now, let's go back to the stocks. Let's go back to doing stocks. We're doing stocks. We did plug. Next, after plug, we had stock. SoFi. Let's do SoFi. I'm actually glad somebody asked for SoFi. I myself wanted to check SoFi, and I have not done yet. SoFi is, well, back to 12, not doing anything remotely crazy. So we're testing the very level I said we'll then end up breaking from. It is bullish right now. This is actually tremendously bullish on the weekly. Problem, it's the same as the monthly on the SPX, just like everything else. So what you're being misled into is to think that you have a rally here. No, you don't. What you have here is some form of a corrective movement just to retain the direction of this channel, right? Kind of like so. Jesus. Can you draw a straight line? Kind of like so, just retaining the channel direction, if you will, right? And so arguably you still have more room to go up. You can maybe even establish, maybe even slip out of this. This is not drawn in cement, as you can imagine, so this may mean you may even, not too accurate, but you get the idea, give or take. So you may even still see 1439 as we sort of process the end of this rally for the following next sessions. Let's see. So far, Rocket Lab, RKLB, Rocket Lab, bearish at face value. This is interesting. So okay, cool. This also prints bullish momentum. Where are you? Showing bullish momentum temporarily, so meaning you can easily still see the top of this channel, at least within the short vicinity. I would say probably 23-ish. If you look at 4 hours, you are coming to an end, so it doesn't surprise if this junction will end up being the very one where we need. Let me just close this for a sec. On your daily, let's go back. Yeah, that's that very same junction, as you see, that very same area. So it's not going to be all that surprising if this signals that you still have a little bit more bullish momentum in the system, probably for a session or two. This is actually surprisingly very bullish That side of things is very bullish, but then it's bearish like everything else. You see, so it's not all that surprising. Really, what's going on here again? You're being misled by the weekly, like most charts. Most people basically buy into the narrative of the weekly. Why? I don't understand. It's almost like you have so many stronger powers, and especially this, for example. We said so many times that if your stochastic RSI has no data and it starts printing on the top, you should probably be worried and afraid that what it signals is a significant corrective movement that is ahead of you, all the way to the downside, which can mean for this sort of asset something akin to lower levels from before. I would say probably above it. I wouldn't right away hammer it to death, but yeah, probably around what was ceiling, just kind of to give you an idea, around the high fives, right? That is still the reality of everything. I mean, the sad reality is once we acknowledge something is so highly correlated to the market, it's far improbable for it to be detached and behave differently. We're gonna go over all of them. I really don't mind since I haven't. I mean, I really feel like I haven't gone over anything recently, and I'm like so excited to go over any stock right now. With my computer not working well, I'm just so happy. So going over any stock doesn't matter whether we did it this morning. But the sad reality is that most of the market is signaling the very same sort of price action, and it's showing that most of everything has just a little bit more bullish momentum, which is very misleading, and most of the price action is still very, very bearish. Okay? For example, this. It appears to be bullish, right, but it also appears to show that that's it. You've squeezed everything you had. So Kratos, for example, as sad as it is, of course, did push back to that 33 area. Cursed 33 area that I said that we're not going to get. You see, Greg gets it wrong sometimes as well. This is why I say don't just blindly follow Greg, but make your own decisions. You're adults. You know, I do get it right most of the time, right? We're just like significantly more accurate than anyone else, and pretty damn accurate. And even in terms of, dare I say it, timing, right, relatively close to my relative guesstimates of how long these things take. But still, if it's not 100%, and I always said it's not going to be 100%, so some things should be considered that they're not going to be just linear and straightforward, right? With Kratos, I got it wrong a little bit. I did say that we're not going to trace back to that 33 area. We kind of can see that entire price action hidden inside that little area right there. Okay, all it does is that it's currently having this very flat channel, and as you can kind of tell, the lows that I've mentioned are still the very same lows, the 24, 23, which of course I said I'm gonna probably expecting some slippage and then buying into 22. So my estimate here still stands as it was. I still do like defense. My estimate still stands to retest of that 24 with maybe a slippage of $1 or $2, and subsequently giving us maybe 22, 23 area. So that's my area. That's where my target is. What do we see on the momentum? What do we see that on the momentum? Yes, we do see that on the momentum. We definitely are located tremendously high. On the monthly, it is very far to look at these very levels in relative price, right? Because it's not such a high price. Our movements signify so much more, right? So this easily can signify a movement towards these bottoms, the 23, given that it's oversold territory once we complete that action. I'm not going to be all that surprised if we're going to have some slippage, just like as I've mentioned. And so I'm going to start DCAing around there. And whatever is going to happen around here, if it will happen, that's just the cherry on top. And so yeah, it is still actively bearish right now within a what will be convergence divergence on the top. But what you should remember, it is again this is defense. It's sort of this prolonged, very prolonged bow. If you follow defense, you realize they usually go through very, very long cycles. And so what I'm looking to capitalize on is basically an internal movement somewhere around here. That's all I'm trying to get. I'm not looking here for anything insane. And so, again, those who are confused and think I'm in right now, no, I'm not. What I want to do is establish a low and get in. It will take, as you can see, quite a while. Roughly, like I said, potentially up to a year. May happen quicker, but I expect it to take as long as a year. Okay, sometimes these actions happen quicker, but it's not something to rely on. I am relying on what makes sense and what is standard for this sort of asset. That's it. That's Kratos for you. OSCR. Let's go with Oscar. Oscar Health. Alrighty. I'm so excited even to doing healthcare stocks right now. This is so awesome. It's working, boys and girls. I'm so happy, ladies and gentlemen. You have no idea. I was working on this thing for like 4 days straight. Sleepless nights until I got it stable. And this is why I'm saying Murphy's Law, I'm going to get my PSU tomorrow. The power supply will arrive tomorrow, and I'm no longer going to need the stability I have right now. And it's will go to the shitter in like an hour just to make me upset. Now, 4 hours, not really all that significant. I mean, we're not gonna see there anything we're not gonna see on the daily, so let's just flip over. Daily, since we're already in oversold territory and still rather in oversold territory, moving to the higher end of things, I would argue that what you should see relatively should be 1270-80 area, 12 whatever that is, 1270-80. And of course should be reassessed when you do arrive, since it's a resistance, it's a median, so that makes sense. Your weekly claims that you're not actually done with your correction, so that's actually pretty messed up. What this means is you're going to be moving within a very annoying range to the downside. That sucks. That basically signifies here that you are kind of moving in this sort of whatever wedge formation into this thing. So have fun. That looks fun. Given that it's actually on the monthly bearish and becoming even more bearish, and given how close we are to our channel, let me see if I can get a higher range channel. No, I can't. What do I expect? I don't have enough data. Crazy me. So this sucks for you. This actually signifies that you will be retesting the mid-10s, I would say, maybe even with some slippage, the 10s, just kind of generally speaking, because it's a 10, so it's a 10. I mean, you get it, it's a 10. So maybe, come on, just one click. Jesus. No, come on. All right, cool, we'll go with that. You have your 10 there. But you know what? You want to see how 10 important? Let's see if my pseudo guess, if you will, matters anything to the market. Let's see. Well, that's disappointing. But is it really? I would argue this is not too much of a coincidence. And then let's see how well market is aware of the 10. Once the market does have the reasoning on the opportunity or whatever, it ends up testing the level very well. Let's see what we get further down the line. Well, I would argue this is not a coincidence, right? And probably these are not either. This is not either. None of them are a coincidence, okay? That's without even going to the 1 minute where we can see the most granular formation. Now, what do we see on the 12 minutes, on the 45 minutes we're seeing we're around 12 with some upside. Do I have it on the hourly? Yes, you have that on the hourly. So I would argue you are easily going to establish that is your destination, it appears to be. Yeah, that makes total sense. Given the range, how this works, given the slippage, you are definitely still moving to the upside, and the market wants to retest on Oscar Healthcare. This sort of thing, but your overall sucks. Does it? No, it's actually sort of semi-decent somehow. Your overall is somehow decent, and I'll explain. Look, this is bearish at face value, right? But when you run bearish for a while, even if you have internal corrective movements, right, these sort of convergence, divergence to the upside just for a retest, you're probably going to get a bounce back to your, since you're sitting on the median by then, right? We're kind of below median, back to median, and by then you want to try and move towards that 14. So actually your Oscar appears to be a lot more bullish than what I've expected. Still not done yet. Remember, you basically just to kind of paint a picture, a little bit down just to go up, eventually to be determined when you're gonna hit that resistance that will be up there relatively, as we said, right? It still is working within some framework. It's hard to identify because, well, it looks very steep and doesn't feel like there's a framework, but there is one. It still is working within this sort of downwards forming wedge. And this is, look, it's bad when you're here. It's not that bad when you're here. I mean, you're probably far more likely to transition one way or another, even if just by retesting. This is good. This is actually tremendous. This is phenomenal. Okay, this is actually one of them things we haven't seen in a while. This starts at the bottom. This is actually the very opposite of what we saw on what was it? Where did we see that? I think on the very previous one on what was it, in KTOS we saw that overall, or Palantir? Where did we see that? We saw that basically this opposite on was it Kratos, really, or Rocket Lab, Palantir? Where did we see that? I think Kratos maybe. But yeah, that is actually phenomenal. The fact that you're seeing that your stochastic RSI, again, it's not a given, right? But this is actually tremendously good. The fact that your stochastic RSI is at the bottom and not at the top nor the center, this is actually very good. This signifies, look, again, I'm not calling anything out, but given the structure and given the time and given the time frame that we're looking at, you easily looking back at your 35, 30, whatever, maybe even 40 and higher, like basically crossing over your all-time high. Yeah. Or, well, initiation price, right, which was the highest point. The fact that it starts at the bottom, where on the 3 months, every single, and you're slowing down, you're seeing very clear slowdown, right, towards that, what appears to be the current established single floor. I gotta say, this is bullish like crazy. I'm not saying it's gonna happen overnight. I'm not saying it's gonna, be super rapid, but damn, that's bullish. Overall, if you consider everything we saw here, this is bullish. Again, not right away. Remember, we said down in order to go up, right? Then to be determined, but still a little bit down in order to go a lot up. In fact, you can really see how it's running out of bearish momentum. Like, check this out. Where's the thingy? Come on. Where's my thingy? Oh, here it is. Thank you. Like, you can literally see how that momentum is basically shrinking. Look at the size of the candlesticks, how they were very rapid to the downside and slowly becoming slower and slower and smaller, right? And again, you're probably going to be able to see it better on the weekly, in fact, right? So how we had these very big movements transitioning into like this, you see the transition, peaking out almost to just go back to that relative, what is a relative normal moving average for this asset. So actually very bullish. I mean, it is pretty crazy to say, but pretty bullish. Again, look, you're the bottom of the channel, and even the weekly can sort of hint at the idea, right? I should probably clean this up. Next time I'm going to look at this, I'm like, what the hell is all this? But basically what I'm saying is this. No, I'm just, yeah. Again, maybe I'm exaggerating. More like so. But yes, this sort of directional overall thing. That's that about Oscar. I'm just waiting for the orange president. Johnny, my God. Guys, you have tweet extra something Something funny during the weekend, so get some drama for Monday. Yeah, I gotta admit, yeah, that can definitely be the case with him. Everything is possible, and just wait to have some uh, s- see the decent retrace pullback. Okay, I see. The robots are buying. Yes, they are. They are, Bob. Gonna. I'm not sure what you got there, but I hope I was useful. Guys, remember to press the like button. Absolutely, please do. APPN. Let's do APPN. Theo, what a cool name, sir, you have. APPN. Like Theo Van Tees, or whatever his name is. What Theo Van something. Has a really cool name. Theo. Now, let's check this. Daily bullish, so not good for you really. You're kind of squeezing there. Weekly is actually pretty good. Weekly definitely says that you're basically with everything in mind. That's your kind of narrative for now. This sucks for you. This really sucks for you. This shows that regardless of this convergence, you know what? Just before I say that, okay, what? Interesting. Interesting, interesting. Well, you are actually prepping for a rally. You are actually prepping for a rally. This is actually cool. You can see the gradual sort of climb out of the mud. This is pretty cool. You can see how it's picking back up and becoming more bullish, sorry. So this is cool. And given, so, I mean, normally, because you don't have any proper data to rely on, normally that's kind of what the market is planning. There's not a lot of choices there. I can look at it later down the line in the community, but this actually makes sense. This actually makes a lot of sense. Well, partially, I would. It just goes to show that the ceiling here is far nowhere near where you think it is, because right now it appears to be that we're literally sitting on the line, right? It's kind of like there, literally, and you can actually see it. Look how easy it is. Check this out. Here it is. Here, that's the very same level we just spoke about a second ago. Here's the market testing it to death. You see, so. But now look, I know you're slipping below, but it doesn't mean you're below. It means you're testing it currently, which may result, which seems to be the actual direction for you, is more of an upside corrective movement to retain your flat sort of formation here to eventually then break out. Your current channel is kind of yay high. Yeah, you see, I mean, I can kind of identify them, eyeball them and stuff. You shouldn't eyeball things in the market. Market is not one of those things where you eyeball things. Okay, I'm just really good at this. My students can vouch. But yeah, you're kind of there. I know it's weird, and you guys get this from me all the time, because your price action is right here, right now, and you're like, well, it's bad. No, it's actually good, because you're moving here. Even with this slippage, with this area, I mean, sure, I would not be risking it. I would actually be getting out here, but that's me. Some people would risk it and go all the way to the edge of the channel. Why not? I'm just going to be, I have this weird tendency to execute differently than other people might. Okay? But that's just my sort of perception on things. And I know this looks to be very bearish and almost signals to you that it's going to do the opposite of this. It's probably not. It's gonna look, this still is an uptrend. The market is always on an uptrend unless the company is really getting bad. This still appears to be a very distinct uptrend. Remember that even if it's going to be just corrective to 20, you're gonna get here a decent movement. Okay, we're looking probably at around potentially up to your sort of higher range. You can call it like a 50 again, sort of moving through. If you're really 48, 50, that vicinity ish. I'm not giving you the exact trajectory. I'm not saying it should be around this time. It may take longer, right? And then end up being a little lower. So, but you get the idea. It appears to be that the market in this instance is establishing a low to start correcting to the upside. And more so, I would argue that this channel is probably bullshit and gonna get reestablished multiple times, and your actual high is somewhere else. In fact, just for the F of it, let me check something out for you. Just my own curiosity, I guess. You piqued my curiosity there, sir or madam, whoever asked for this. You definitely piqued my curiosity. That sucks. But I will then go with that. I'm pretty sure that will be my... These will be my levels. I want... That sucks bad. That just sucks. Okay, so let's just do that instead. Like so. Sure, that'll do. That will do. Let's lock it in. Now let's see. I think it was like 6 years. Screw that. It's good enough. Weekly. Okay, so let me just, yeah, just remove these for a second. No, that doesn't. Okay. Yeah, so that coincides with your 35. So not yet 39, but 35, and then eventually 43.85. So 35.73 and 43.85. Those are your main targets on the upside as you go. On the near future, then it just becomes 50. That 50.41, just call it 50. You might as well treat it as 50. Then you have a super duper major, super duper important level right here around that, which is 58.56. But yeah, you kind of got all the levels that you'll have on your way up. Enjoy. You just got a cheat sheet. Yep, you just got a cheat sheet. Those are your major levels on the upside. And don't expect them to happen at this sort of gradual process. No. We go down, we flatten out, we go up. Okay? That's kind of how it works, if anything. Let me just clean this stuff up. Alright, I think I've done that bit of things. Oh my god, everything, even the stream looks smoother. When I'm watching my own stream, it looks proper smooth. How the hell did you guys handle me having such a shitty stream all along? I so appreciate anybody and everybody who showed up for the stream in the last couple of days. You guys are amazing. Thank you. No, thank you for tolerating the shitty stream I had for the couple of days. I mean, if it was crap for me, for you guys, it was probably just mad torture. Must have been Kratos. Yes, I have a smart play on this one according to what you said and what is what is my narrative as well. It's just perfect. I'm sorry, by the way, my screens are further even. I haven't even got everything back to normal. My resolution is off. Everything is so not normal for me. How will APPN and Oscar behave during the market correction? Will they be bullish nonetheless? That is a good question. I probably should have noticed this earlier. Well, APPN. So let's look at APPN first. Okay, let's say, so if we're saying that we're going to see the corrective movement during the correction more so downwards, and while APPN is actually picking back up, that's why any normal sane human being shouldn't be aiming at these highs. But I would probably argue, in my mind, so that the safest area would be probably around here. Coincidentally, coincides with some factors here, right? Because this is a quarter we are looking here at potentially 2 candlesticks easily. You see one candle, I got carried away, one candle, and like second candle. Jesus. You get the idea. I'm just, I'm just, special. I'm on that special level. So yeah, you get the idea. More like so, and with some slippage gives you perfectly that area that I'm marking right there. Okay? That's why, because the rest of the market and the sentiment and the pain, there will be some sort of green, havens, if you will, here and there. But people will not see the rationale and will be too afraid and will not know the story. Of course, there will be some sort of rally through it. In fact, I would argue that what I'm signaling here to you is pretty evidently an inverted head and shoulders. Some form of inverted head. This totally makes sense. It just goes to show that APPN is not in line with the market cycle whatsoever. It cannot give less of a shit, basically. It will suffer. It will definitely suffer. Some of that negative sentiment will seep in. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for the coughing. But yeah, I really do think that as it stands, what it will do, it will just prohibit from APPN having the full force of its bullish momentum, and so it will be a little bit more tame. Now, if we want to look at Oscar, you said, right? Oscar, how will Oscar behave? Well, Oscar, since we're looking out, so far out, that's a bit of a problem because I don't have any data to rely on with that regard. That kind of sucks. But Oscar, I would argue that it's going to be slower. Oscar, because it still haven't established such high highs, it may, you know what? You got me. So both of them are yours. You really got me curious with these. They have interesting structures. Let's see what we can get on that one. You really got me curious. I mean, so since it's already established, I'm gonna use that one. Cool. I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna use that. That makes total sense to me now, and that appears to be correct. First of all, that's already decent. Already like that. Let's go to the hourly. Just for a second. Just for a second to confirm. Perfecto. Perfect. Although I would argue it's probably working off of 2 of them, but it doesn't matter. This one is the most relevant, I would argue. And this would probably behave. How would this behave? This would behave 50, 30. So unlike APPN, because it hasn't really established these highs, and your highs are also, first of all, inherently, we will retest that probably to death, then all the way this way, that way, as time being killed, you're gonna get to that point, potentially a wedge as we like, and somewhere around here. Jesus, I can't draw a straight line to save my own life with a stable system. My God. It's going to be somewhere around there, probably, just to highlight the beautiful thing. Probably somewhere around there, you're going to have like a cool golden pocket channel there. I have a suspicion. Probably kind of like so. Alrighty. That's how it's going to behave. And so, without the market correction, you may as well should have gotten 100. But you're not going to. And that's going to be very, very slow. Like, this is going to be, like, these highs, if I'm not that far off in terms of relative timing to how these things sort of may play out, you might not even get that high by then. Basically, you're going to get screwed by that area. And we're going to have to reconvene and re-envision how this may behave. And this may never happen. May. And so, but currently upside still, I mean, to be frank, to put it in simple terms, currently you want to seek the nearest support and resistance on the diagonals and the internals probably. So you got to have like 30s, You're gonna have your 30, you're gonna have your 25, you're gonna have your 20 still right above you. So you have a lot to do. Like, you have a lot of levels to break. So re-ask me again when you get closer to your 15, I guess, and then we're going to be able to reestablish how soon you, or relatively what your direction, in order to get to 20. So that's how I'm seeing this behavior. I can only speak what I think of Oscar. Fundamentally speaking, it will go down with the market, but it already very cheaply valued, can very well be less than the market. You're just gets really cheap. Okay, so okay, you still can draw to save your own life. Yeah, no, I can't. Again, I never claimed to be an artist. I'm not a Bob Ross. I'm more of a Salvador Dali kind of thing, if anything. All right, so that's it. That was fun. We got like 40 more minutes in. You guys can see I'm so excited. I really am missing out on having these meetings with the members. Please do smash the like, subscribe, ring the bell, join the community, all that beautiful stuff. I have now 3 open spots for the community. Here is the Discord, which you will be preview to. Here are various channels we have here that we talk about all sorts of cool things. The most important channel I've been told to show again and again and show off how awesome it is, of course, is this beautiful testimonials channel that lets you know how good the students had it while learning in the academy and the skill set that they learned from it. It is a tremendously valuable academy. I now have 3 open spots. That's it. I mean, the only reason I would say to hurry up and get them is because, well, the longer you wait, some of them will be grabbed and you'll have less available time slots available for you to choose out of, and then you have to go with whatever there is and not whatever you find comfortable. All right, that's kind of a good reasoning for you. And plus, you'll know what's going on in the market. Pretty decent thing, I would argue. Andrew, my pleasure. Dude, you're awesome. Thank you for all the things. I really appreciate you guys supporting through this very unpleasant week. I know it's like the worst week ever, and suddenly I semi-disappear, and then don't do as many meetings or videos. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's the original plan was that I got a new power supply, a 1200 watt power supply, and I wanted to get my system better. And through the process, I basically told my brother I'm going to be giving him my older one, the 900 that I had. And because I've didn't do it the right way, as we, PC builders have particular sort of processes we go through and steps and stages that you have to go through, and I really messed up on this one, and I didn't go through necessary stages, and I already started and set up his computer, and I felt like it's going to be so unfair for me to pull him through the ordeal, when it's obvious that in my case I'll simply have to buy a new one and it'll get here ASAP. So I felt like I should take the brunt of this stupid thing that happened because it's my fault. That would be the responsible, proper, brotherly thing to do towards my brother. I, of course, love him and I don't want to screw him over. I choose to screw myself over a little bit. I know it sounds weird, but this is what it is. I tremendously appreciate you all showing up. Again, love you from the core of my soul, people. This is not a given. This is not a given. I know, especially with how difficult the streams were. Join in, hang out with us, ask questions, join the academy. You'll be independent. You'll not have to look at the market and wonder what's the next step and panic and maybe do the wrong thing. That's it, boys and girls. I'll see you on the next one. This probably means we're back to normal tomorrow. I mean, no, not probably. This means we're back to normal. I mean, my system is stable now. We're back to normal regardless of. Maybe we'll see how things will pan out if we'll get the PSU earlier tomorrow. Maybe we'll not necessarily do something early. Maybe we will. We'll see how the market will pan out. One way or another, we know what it is that we're expecting. The market has kind of ran to a wall here and squeezed out most of that bullish momentum that we had. In fact, it is pretty amazing how we're testing 5,500. I would argue it's not going to be all that surprising. 55555, as we're familiar with it. This is insane. But within the context of this very excessive, sort of irrational, unstable market, this is something we should, not expect, but understand that these things are probable, may happen, and we will see the market being volatile in both directions. If we predict a certain bottom, we may slip beyond it as before. We slip above it as right now. This is rather normal. I would still get prepared for a deeper correction and a continuation of a very bearish market. That's it, boys and girls. See you in the community. Bye for today.